Hello, everyone, and welcome to Migrant Munch. My name is Dr. Sharika Senamiratna, and I'll be your host on this podcast. Let's dive into today's story. Welcome, everyone, to another episode of the Migrant Munch. I've got a very special guest with us here today. We'll get him to introduce himself.
Thank you, Sharika. Hi, my name is Vlad. I've moved to Australia 1.5 years ago. I'm originally from Tallinn, Estonia, a little beautiful country in the north of Europe. And back home, I was mostly doing finance, then I was doing marketing, social media on the side. And now in Australia, I'm kind of trying to, get back into the groove and just continue my social media journey as well.
So, I'd like to know what led to your decision to move from Estonia to Australia.
You know, I think when it comes to moving, I was very privileged. I have my lovely auntie living here. She's been living here for quite some time, and there was a moment when I realized that, well, without being kind of too dramatic, but my life literally folded in 3 weeks. I lost two jobs in a span of 3 weeks, which was a little bit, and
Wow.
I had some other personal issues happening at the same time. And I realized that, you know what? If nothing works for me here at the moment, maybe it's time to leave the safety of the nest that I grew in and try something. And I remember texting my auntie, I'm like, oh, just letting you know, I'm moving to Australia. And she's like, you were not even planning to visit. Like, what do you mean moving? I'm like, well, now I'm planning to move. So that led me to Melbourne.
And why Australia?
As far as possible from Europe at the moment, and I just wanted to have, a fresh perspective. And definitely the working holiday visa, I was very lucky, to have a strong passport that obviously allows it. And the fact that Estonia is one of the countries that do participate in the working holiday visa program.
So tell us about Estonia then. What's Estonia like?
Oh, this is one of the questions that I think every single Estonian gets asked. There are like a couple of things that usually you, as Estonian, hear abroad. They're always like, "Oh, I've never met anyone from Estonia." I'm like, "We know, we know. There's a very little of us. 1.3 million people currently living in the country.
Mm.
We have also different ethnic groups living in Estonia as well. We do have a Russian minority living there as well. When it comes to my country, I think it's so difficult to tell you in such a little time, but we're known for so many things. But probably one of the things that I am very proud of is a very classic Estonian thing to be proud of, which is our e-governance and our IT infrastructure. When it
Mm.
comes to things like, for example, here, in Australia, you have MyGov, right? Or MyGov ID. We had it since I was a kid. Like that,
Wow.
we had a joke in Estonia that is like most of the time, if you want to do something that requires you to leave the house, it's mostly either a marriage or a divorce. Everything else can be done online. And it's been like this pretty much for my entire life. The first time I encounter Mikey, I'm like, is there a reason why there's no app for this? Things like that. So I was a bit of a, very proud of my country's achievements. We are constantly in a lot of very good ratings. We switch with Finland very often in the rating of the best education among the OECD countries when
Mm.
it comes to middle and high school and elementary school, if I'm not mistaken, as well. We have very clean air. We are extremely safe. So there's a lot of beautiful things. Most of the country is covered by forest. If I'm not mistaken, I might be mistaken. It's close to 80%. And of
Oh,
course, the capital, it is stunning. It's one of the world's best preserved medieval towns. It is an entire old town is a UNESCO World Heritage Site.
wow.
It's absolutely stunning. When you come from a small country, it's such a special feeling to even discuss it because, like, no matter whether you have a complicated relationship with your own culture, no matter if you have a complicated relationship with the history of the country or anything else, still it holds a very, like, special place in your heart. I only met one Estonian in 1.5 years here, and I met him at the party. And everyone was like looking at us like crazy because we were jumping and screaming and hugging, and we're like, "Oh my God, like tell me everything, like how are you doing?"
Oh,
Uh, yeah, it's very special. Ernest Hemingway once said that you're gonna meet an Estonian in every single harbor city that you go to. This is
mm.
like the loosely the meaning of the sentence that he said. And so far, I have to say that he was right. Yeah. If there was a country created by introvert for introverts, I could not recommend you more or any country than Estonia.
Do you see yourself as an introvert then? Because Estonia is created by introverts for introverts.
Well, that's why I left. It's an amazing country. You know, like I obviously, I cannot I love it tremendously. But at some point, like we also want to expand. It's good to have something that you like, but it's extremely important, to go and expand your palette, try new things. Because, like, hey, if you don't like Australia, you know for sure that there is a place that you enjoy, so you can always come back. Like I was very extroverted for a local level of being an extrovert, but here sometimes I do need some space.
Yeah. Interesting. So you're partially introverted, but mostly extroverted. Is
I
that
would say,
right?
yeah, I would say definitely mostly extroverted because I do believe that Australians really love their small talk. And I always, when I was growing up, I always admired small talk and the way it's presented in culture, especially in the internet culture. Very often people would say, "Oh, see, like in Western cultures, you can be complimented on a street. This is so nice. People like are not afraid of talking to each other." And I was like, "Yeah, this is so amazing. Like this is so sad we don't have it." But now I'm like, "Please stop talking to me. It is 6 a.m. I'm just trying to get my lung back. How was my day? How was my day? I woke up 20 minutes ago. My day hasn't started yet. Just like respectfully, please move on." I'm, I'm barely holding on. I do not have the capacity to answer the question, because like back home, especially like when we ask, "How are you doing?" we want to know.
Yeah.
So you have the right to say, "I'm not doing well,"
Hmm.
or, "Oh, it's actually very bad." Here, try to tell this to a barista at the store. "Oh, hey, how are you?" "Very bad. How are you?" So, like, so you kind of have to, you have to play along, obviously, you have to understand that this is just um politeness
Mm.
type thing.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's a big pet peeve of mine as well, particularly when you like are ordering something and people sometimes are like, "Hi, how are you?" And it sounds like, just like so rote learned, and they're not even listening to you, right? Half the time, and you're like, Why do you even bother?" Like, why?
Yeah, which is like, I can also understand that this conversation that we have is just more of a social construct, more of a dance that people do in a public setting, right? So I should not be treating every single conversation like a conversation with the best friend.
True. Yeah. I think that listening component is part of that because it's like if you know the person genuinely wants to know how you are doing, it's different to someone just ticking the box and saying it to you, right? Just asking you how you're doing just because it's part of their job description, just to ask you how are you doing. You know when some people are genuinely there just to have a chat or help you, but you also know when people are just doing it just to tick the box. So, yeah. What are some other interesting things that you've learned about Australia that you're just like, this is insane?
When I moved to Australia, I believe that that was the first time ever I experienced something called the tall poppy syndrome, which I've heard about, but I've never witnessed it. And to me, till this day, this is the biggest cultural shock because, like, I come from a country that historically had to constantly prove itself and reinvent itself. We are a small country without natural resources. The only
Mm.
thing that we have is our brains, our willpower, and our human capital. And we had no luxury of being slow and lazy because you would be conquered, consumed, outperformed. And that's why I like when I look back at the society where people are like, I want to open my own company. I want to do this. I want to do that. When people would say something like this, I guess, especially, I'm obviously generalizing now, but like when people say something like this here, and sometimes people would meet them with the attitude of like, oh, like, do you think you're all that? What do you mean? Like, well, I do want to be all that for sure. Don't you think everyone wants to be all that? Don't you think everyone wants to be great? When it comes to celebrating each other achievements and encouraging people to achieve more, I think this is something that I am yet to see in the culture here.
Hmm.
I haven't personally noticed that yet. That was probably one of the big shockers. But that was just like the negative things, like things that positively surprised me, I think, about Melbourne is definitely, well, I'm gonna be very cliche. I'm gonna say the coffee and the food scene. I'm this like very like happy European. I'm like, look at us. We're so good at everything, yeah, blah blah blah. A bit into ourselves, a lot into ourselves, to be honest. But
You earned it.
yeah,
Yeah.
maybe, I don't know, yeah, but it's like, um, when I moved here, and again, love my country. However, here, if someone asks me, Vlad, what's your favorite Vietnamese restaurant? I have the luxury to stop and think. I have the luxury of ask, oh, are we talking about like banh mi situation or like a proper sit down? And then I can ask you, oh, where are you located? So I can actually have it. Back home, we have one Vietnamese. If I wanted a banh mi, I had to go to Finland in
Wow.
my life.
Okay.
Sometimes I wish people knew how good they have it when it comes to food here. I'm not
Hmm.
even gonna start on coffee. That's just ridiculous. When I'm gonna be visiting Europe, I'm gonna be complaining so much. I know it. I already know it because the bare minimum, like the baseline in Melbourne, is so high. To get a objectively bad cup of coffee is tough. Finding exceptional cup of coffee is difficult everywhere in the world because like it's not easy to find exceptional things. But to find an objectively bad cup of coffee in a nice cafe here, I don't think it's really possible. It's definitely it may not be up to your liking, sure, because it's subjective, but yeah, it should be advertised. An absolute first thing to visit Melbourne. Come here to eat and drink because like no one does it the way we do.
Interesting to hear you talk about the food and the coffee culture here, and I guess the food and drink culture here and the hospitality. What would you say is your favorite culture or cuisine that you've tried here?
Actually, the first thing that comes to me is Sri Lankan food.
Oh, I did not pay you to say that. I'll just
No,
flag.
no, but whenever I'm asked about my favorite meal in Melbourne, it's almost a blasphemy to ask for a favorite meal or a favorite cafe in Melbourne. I'm like, I cannot choose. Like the sample size for me to choose objectively a good place in Melbourne, I don't, that's a lot. That's a lot of research.
Yeah.
However, one place that is just my guilty pleasure that I just love going all the time is a Sri Lankan place, and they do my favorite thing in the world, called kotthu. You can eat this anytime. Just this beautiful. First and foremost, I'm a sucker for rotti overall. Any time of the day,
Mm,
I just love it so much. Um, but I guess it's just a perfect iteration of warm meal. Like, and it's just great. It hits every single time. So that would be definitely on the list. Another thing, oh, there's just so much. Like, I think I'm exploring so much. Well, Chinese, and I know that might sound basic for people that live here, but again, coming back to Tallinn, we have a few very good places, but those are rather far and few in between.
mm.
Unfortunately. So for me, trying actual Chinese food and most importantly, regional Chinese food here is an absolute blessing. It's just, being spoiled left and right with all of the choice when it comes to that. I really like
Nice.
Sichuan cuisine. I'm not a huge spicy food fan. However, their Sichuan numbing pepper is just something that I am absolutely obsessed with, and I really hope that I would be able to go to Sichuan province one day and just, try it on myself.
Amazing. That sounds very cool. And actually, it led me to ask you a question. Have you ever tried Sri Lankan Chinese food?
No, I haven't.
There
I
you
haven't.
go. Combine your two favorites.
Let me write this down. Sounds good.
Sri Lankan Chinese food is a whole other thing, right? And look, people will probably just be like, that is not a thing. But if you ask a Sri Lankan, they'll know what we're talking about. It's the fried rice that you get at a Sri Lankan restaurant. But it's like, fried rice is not your typical traditional Sri Lankan meal, right? It's made a little bit differently, but oh my goodness. And you have to visit Sri Lanka just to eat the Chinese food, honestly. That's like to die for.
There is a book my mom used to read me every single night when I would go to bed, which is
Yeah,
called,
okay.
in Russian, it's called Сказки острова Lanka, which means the fairy tales of the Lanka Island.
Oh, okay.
And it's a very beautifully illustrated book. If I'm not mistaken, it's from 1984. It's
Mm-hmm.
absolutely stunning. And that was probably my first encounter of that. And I was always like so fascinated because like the book is very big and the images there are so, so, so pretty. And I would always think like, oh, it would be so cool to one day, to finally visit. And when I bring this up to people, everyone is always so surprised. They're like, Sri Lankan fairy tales in Russian in Estonia, like in early 2000s. Yeah, that was.
That's bizarre. I've never heard of that. Was it written by a Sri Lankan then?
This is, as far as I understand, and as far as I remember, yes, but it was simply just translated to Russian. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Very cool. Okay,
that
so you're like you probably know more about Sri Lanka than even I do, realistically.
I highly doubt that. Yes, I highly doubt that. Yeah, but I would definitely love to visit one day.
Yeah. So what are your top five countries to visit on your bucket list?
I really want to go to China
Hmm.
so, so badly. Um, I want to go to Kazakhstan for sure. Well, it was much easier to do from Europe. I do not know why I haven't done it when I was living there. I really want to go to Kenya. I would love to visit some of the coffee plantations there and just like,
Mm.
have conversations because like they grow some one of the most incredible beans in the world. I would love to visit Sri Lanka. It's also
Hmm.
been on a list for quite some time. And the fifth one, I really would love to visit Mauritius.
Mm.
I have a couple of friends from there, and I was fascinated by the culture there as well. There's so many places that I want to visit. Even in Australia, I haven't been out of Melbourne yet, and it's been
Mm.
almost 2 years. I think it's also like, whenever you move somewhere as an immigrant, you get so overwhelmed with so many things that you have to deal with.
Mm.
As in like finding a job, keeping a job, paying your rent, organizing your life, all the papers, all of those visa things that are just a lot. Yeah.
And what's your advice then to other people who are European who are trying to move to Australia?
That is a good question because that could be a very long list. I think the first one is to have absolutely no expectations
Mm.
of this endeavor. None. Unless you're moving here with a very precise idea in mind that I want to move here, as in like move and stay and get a residency perhaps. And especially if you have visited the country before, sure, that's completely different thing. We're not talking about that. When it comes to never been to Australia, I'm gonna do a working holiday visa and figure it out. Have a lot of patience and a lot of grace for yourself because yes, you probably speak English very well. Yes, people are quite friendly. It's still a lot. You're still moving 15,000 kilometers away. Second thing, please, please, please bring money. Please bring money. I know all of this. I moved here with 800 euros in my pocket. Sounds very romantic and very cool. Um, when we talk about it as something that happened in the past, having to experience this in a moment is not good.
Mm.
It will stress you out a lot. And as much money as you can, just like bring as much money as you can. Third would be, I think it's very important to obviously have an open mind and, let the journey, because definitely this is a journey that you're, embarking on, to kind of let the journey unfold. But I think having a bit of a rough idea in mind would be great. As in like, okay, are you more of a city person? So for example, like I am, or are you more of those people that want to, do surfing? They want to see a, coral reef or, things like that. I think at least writing things down, writing how much they cost, and having a bit of a rough timing, maybe researching what are the best time to visit, that would definitely be great. Fourth would be, do not forget that your working holiday visa has the word holiday in it.
Mm.
A lot of people comment, they're like, I'm gonna work, 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 which is like fine, maybe that was your, idea in the first place. Sure, you're not gonna enjoy it, like, because the grocery store is just a grocery store, cooking dinner is just cooking dinner, and Netflix is the same no matter which part of the world you're in. Dragging yourself out of it very actively to experience new things is extremely important. You need to create your social circle. No matter for how long you're staying here, you need to have your friends here. So even if you're an introverted, try to include yourself into as many experiences with different people as you possibly can, and just let it unfold. I think it's such an important thing to keep in your mind, that there's so much love and friendship and fun that haven't found you yet and is desperately trying to find you. What you need to do is you definitely need to keep yourself open to
Yeah.
receive all of those things. And this is probably the kind of the fifth thing that, will be very good on your journey here in Australia, in life in general, but like
Mm.
here as well, because this is the ultimate extrovert exam. I would say it feels like a final sometimes for a lot of things. Yeah. I think those are the things probably that I would bring up.
That's really great. I think those are great pieces of advice, particularly the one where, you have to be open-minded, get out of your comfort zone as well, and be open to meeting new people. Because you never know who you're going to meet as well. And a support system is so important to migrants, to people who just move here and don't know what to expect. But I think you raised some really good points there.
And I'm very happy that you said support system, because also asking for help is not a bad thing. There's nothing to be ashamed of. Use the resources that are provided to you by the government, by the state, by
Mm.
your friends. Not be afraid to take, because if you are able to take, you will be also able to give whenever it's time to give for others.
Thank you so much, Vlad. It was great having you on the podcast and discussing your journey from Estonia to Melbourne. And I look forward to seeing what's next for you.
Thank you so much for having me, Sharika.
Thanks for listening to this episode of Migrant Munch. If you really liked what you heard today, reach out to us, get in touch, tell us what really inspired you, and we'd love to connect with you and hear more about your story.